What's up, you guys? Noise Apata here. Listen, what you're about to watch right now is an episode with Brock Wooten. Brock is an exceptional individual, all right? Pretty much, I've had a lot of guys on the show that are amazing, life changing individuals. The more we give, the more we have, and a rising tide raises all ships. Brock Wooden pretty much is going to be talking about, and he's a closure school ally and colleague of ours, about success. You get me, mindset, sales, you know, how some of his ideas, you get me, on the social dynamics, you get me, of the polarity between men and women, and just a lot of genius stuff from him. It just kicking ass at his age, and definitely somebody that inspires me, you get me, to constantly live, and do more and be more. He has a quote in this episode where it says, like, if we, for example, don't choose our friends and our friends don't inspire us, then we live in a prison. So make sure all your friends inspire you. Make sure that you keep becoming better. You get me? He's in the process of creating his riches. I'm in the process of creating my riches. He's 19. I'm 22. And check out the rest of the channel. Some of the guys here have raised billions of dollars, a lot of multimillionaires. They made a movie with Tom Cruise, and I freaking had one of the guys that he was playing from The Game by Neil Strauss on there. So just like, comment, subscribe, enjoy. The more we give, the more we have, and a rising tide raises all ships. Enjoy the free content.
All right, say hi, Brock. Hey.
What's up, guys?
All right, so this is Brock. He pretty much loves to make sales great again and again and again. But mindset, success, social dynamics, cutting to the choice very collectively. It's a show about how people a lot of the time fall into mediocrity versus the latter in living a first class life. Brock himself is one of those individuals that likes to live a first class lifestyle. So with mindset, success, this guy has tremendous inner game with the social dynamics of how he interacts with people, teaches people, gets people to like him. He's got tremendous outer game. He's got great social skills. And he lives his life by design. He's intentional about how he does it. He's one of those real people in the top 10, 20% of the world that is pretty much investing in himself constantly, and the compound effect of that over time. So Brian Tracy, I'm Brock. You can shoot back and forth anytime here, of course, obviously. And we're both part of the same mastermind with Brad Lea as well, with Closure School Live.
Yep.
So Brock's a sales professional. He's an expert when it comes to selling. I dabble in the field a little bit myself. I'll link a publication they did about me in a magazine recently on there. But this episode's all about Brock. So Brock, how are you? How's your story? Where'd you go to high school? You get me? We're both super young, dude. I'm 22 years old.
Yeah.
You get me? You're like what? You're like 23?
I'm 19.
19, you get me? We're like 2 years of difference, 3 years difference.
There we go. Yeah. So I went to high school. I've actually, throughout my high school career, or if you want to call it a career, whatever you want to call it, but I went to 4 different high schools in a matter of 3 years. And it was quite an interesting experience. I have to say, one thing that high school taught me is that they don't know what they're teaching. They don't know what they're doing. And I was very fascinated by the fact that there were people who were making $35,000 to $50,000 a year telling me what I should and shouldn't do, and not to go out and listen to what these millionaires and people who have amassed large amounts of wealth and what they were saying, and listening to the people who had made it to where I want to be versus the people who are trying to tell me that I should stay stuck. All 4 years, or all 4 high schools I went to, each time I had a guidance counselor, when I told them I didn't want to go to college, their response is, well, I'll see you at McDonald's, kind of a situation. It's a typical story. Nobody believes in the path until, you're able to start seeing it. So for me, I graduated so I originally lived in California, moved here when I was 16. I did my junior year out here at Mountain View High School in Loveland, Colorado. And it was a great experience. That's where I met my now significant other. We've been dating for 3 years, which has been a blessing. But at that school, I was able to I found a program where you can graduate a year early. What I had to do is I had to take 11 classes in my first semester and my second semester in order to get it done. Now, I'm not saying I did anything fantastic. I literally just did the absolute bare minimum in all of my classes to get out because I saw it as a complete waste of my time. Now, with
Versus
that
what you
being
said
said,
before.
I'm sorry, what?
Versus what you said before. Because a lot of the time you get me, and a lot of the things that we do here is that, we've had guys that have raised billions of dollars on the show. We have Brock Wooten today. We've had some of the best seducers in the world from that game, from that book, The Game by Neil Strauss. Like,
Yeah.
so fucking cool, man.
Yeah.
Tom Cruise played one of those guys in a movie called Magnolia. I was able to get that guy on the show as well. I
Oh,
mean,
wow.
yeah, I
There you
mean,
go.
it's nuts because these guys teach sales training, but for
Yeah.
seduction. And then
Yeah.
you get me. We're from the corporate world. We don't come from that world. But I've definitely, you get me, been dabbling with that because I
Yeah.
like social skills. Like I like
Yeah, definitely.
leadership. I like sales. I like dating. I'm passionate about all areas of my life. Most
Mm-hmm.
people aren't like you or myself that they'll take the time to, this was impossible. Other people will tell us to get good at anything, right? Despite us maybe already being naturally good or maybe training ourselves because we want to reach the next level, whatever it is for any case throughout the world, because I have people that tune in now, believe it or not, like they're from Australia, some of them. Some of these guys are from like London, the UK. I've seen people from the Netherlands. You get me? Some people from India have tuned into the show,
Yeah.
subscribed and commented on the channel. I'm just like, oh my God, they're coming from everywhere.
That's
Um,
awesome.
yeah, I mean, what are other gems of wisdom you'll share with people? Because a lot of people are scared to chase their dreams, and like they won't do what you do. You get me? Like they won't think big. They won't read the books. They won't be extraordinary. You get me? Because
You
all
have to
that
be in an
it
environment.
compounds. Like
You
all
have
the
to be in an
millionaires we've had on
environment.
before, and what you said
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, you really have to get yourself into an environment where, the people around you are or have a growth mindset, because that's extremely important whenever it
Yes.
comes to, growing. One thing that's always fascinated me is that whenever I get myself in a room that's where everybody's done more things than me, achieved more things than me, I always feel uncomfortable, but that's a good uncomfortable. I always love feeling that sort of uncomfortable because I know that I'm in the right place. And some of the best things that have ever happened to me happened when I was in, let's say, the Mastermind for Brad Lea, or even some other groups that I'm in that have some pretty massive people in it that are doing some pretty great things. So I feel like, having your inner circle inspire you. I don't remember exactly where I heard this quote from, but if your inner circle doesn't inspire you, it's not a circle, it's a prison. So it's one of those things where you really have to pay attention to a social audit, I guess I would say. Figure out who you're around, who you spend the most time with, and if they're not chasing their dreams, if they're not aiming towards something big, are they really a good person to be around? Are they going to be a good influence? So yeah.
What are other things, for example? Because I'm in the process of creating riches now. You get
Yeah.
me? We have a lot in common with that because we're around all these very rich, powerful people. You get me?
Yep.
Most guys our age won't accomplish what we already are doing throughout their lives, and they stay stuck. Kind of like how teachers will tell you, you get me, if you don't go to college, you're gonna end up at McDonald's,
Yep.
or you get me, other people trying to put doubt into us and trying to impose their own limitations of their own reality, like Don Miguel Ruiz talks on the Four Agreements, versus you get me, the unattached of ourselves, and being like Brock is, and he's just chasing his dreams. Because a lot of the time, all of us have experienced this. Everyone has experienced this, but it's just that some people let the fire get extinguished, versus other people are phoenixes. They rise, they're eagles, and they put other people on. I mean, where do you want to take the conversation, Brock? Because I know you're always learning stuff. I know you have a lot of knowledge. You get me. You're always yeah, 100%.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I like where this conversation is going so far. Why don't we head off into the direction of more like success stuff, and then we can move more into sales as we get further
Sure,
along. Yeah.
whatever you
So,
want.
with, like you were saying, most of the times people's fires get extinguished by circumstances like a family, kids, those kind of things. And I tend to find that that's one of the excuses that most people are accepting, and they're like, oh, okay, I get that. But for me, I've never understood that. It's one of those things where if you don't go and chase your dreams and go after something big and do something big for
Even
your
if you're scared
family,
sometimes.
yeah, sometimes,
Get it.
it may be hard for the people that you're around, but if your dreams are killed, you're walking around without the spark in your life. You're a dead person walking. And that's almost more damaging to your family and the people that you're around than, you know, going out and doing things differently and not just always being home. I mean, 30 minutes of quality time is better than all day of just lackadaisically hanging out. Undivided attention of like 30 minutes of undivided attention with the person that you care about or the person who you want to have a relationship with is more important than spending an entire day with them not doing anything, like interacting in a way. um, that's one thing that I've learned in my personal relationships is that, you have to have a certain understanding of when it's time to, let them do their thing and focus on your grind. And then also knowing that there is a time and a place to take a break, give undivided attention, leave everything behind and not think about that stuff and just hang out and be present with that person. I guess presence is probably the best way because, I mean, I've hung out with a lot of people and not been present when I was hanging out with them. I was thinking about other stuff. My mind was in other areas, and that affected the quality of time that I was able to spend with them. I definitely feel like quality over
With your
quantity is
intensity.
yeah. Yeah, definitely. And so, that's something that's huge. Reading the book Strong Men, or excuse me, Hard Times Create Strong Men, it really changed my perspective of the dynamic of how you're supposed to have your inner circle. It's not, you
You want to
have
go into
to
detail with
have,
that? Because like we can go back and forth with this very easily, just because you get me of the
yeah,
experience I have with like the pickup community. Like
definitely.
I had a bad breakup when I was 16, and it kind of traumatized me pretty badly. I hope
Yeah,
she's doing
I've been
fantastic. You
there.
get me?
Yeah, I've
Yeah,
been there. Mine was when
and
I think I was 15 and a half when mine happened.
super cool.
Yeah,
And you get me? We hope they're doing awesome. You get me? I know we're doing great.
yeah.
And it's kind of like I had to kind of pick up my game again when it came with girls, because like
Oh,
I love
definitely.
teaching. You get me? Pick up and all that in a way where it's like most guys. You get me? Imagine you have this unicorn that walks into your life, and you're not able to hold on to her. You get me? Because maybe you didn't have a father figure. I'm just gonna speak in general though, because of the
Mm-hmm.
outside, because of the cases that
Definitely.
I've seen. You get me? People I've spoken with, everything all together, my own. But it's like there's the same way that in sales, you get me, we get confused, you get me, and sometimes we want to get better at training. There's this whole
Mm-hmm.
other world where it's like, imagine if you have abundance in this area of your life as well. Like every area of your life is abundant. Like you don't have to worry about the girl leaving you or you leaving her. You have the choice to be able to walk on to the next company, the next deal, and choose who you do business with at a level where it's
Definitely.
like super extreme. Some guys are supernatural. They never have to study any of it. They're just like the best of the best. They just get there. But I've definitely studied it. I mean, like with that book that you were talking about with Stefan, like what are some of the things where it's like when setting up your inner circle, you get me, the people around you, you get me in life, not looking for gold diggers, looking for people that appreciate you, who you are, people on the same mission, trying to get to where they want to go to. I mean, or anything else that you get me, you probably stumbled on it, and or with the wisdom you've already shared, Brock.
Yeah, I think one of the things that was a major mindset shift for me, um, reading that book, was you have to be strong, not nice. You don't need to be a nice guy because, of course, as the saying goes, nice guys finish last. And it's extremely true because they don't take care of themselves and they don't put themselves first in a lot of situations when it needs to be done. And also with that being strong, I mean, it's so important that you are a foundation for not just yourself, but for other, guys in your life. We live in an age where being a man is looked down upon. Being responsible is looked down upon. And it's kind of twisting our social dynamics. That's one of the interesting things about with the dating scene right now, I guess I would say. is that girls, they're wanting to focus on their career and they're wanting to go and focus on their career, and they're not worried about, kids and the traditional family, ideology that most or the stereotypical woman would think about, or it's transitioning out of that. And that's changing the dynamics of both parties. A lot of times nowadays, relationships are getting into a neutral, like male female, like 50% male 50% female role for both of them, instead of it being like one's the male role model or the male part of this relationship,
In this
and then
case,
the
that would
other
be
one's the
Brock.
feminine. And
Don't have any
that
ideas with me. But in this case, it'd be Brock. Go on.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because I know that for me, if I was in the middle of trying to find a girl right now, I feel like one of the biggest things is kind of setting expectations early on. That's what I've had the best experience with for me, setting boundaries. But also one of the things that I've also noticed is that most guys who don't get the girl are not like, they overthink things. That's, to me, that's 90% of the problem. I mean, my cousin, he had struggled with getting a girlfriend for a very, very long time. I was like, dude, you need to stop overthinking it. You're complicating it way too much. You're hanging out with these girls, but you're never making a move. You just have to make that move. And then understand that if that falls through, you have two choices. A, you can continue to pursue and try again and continue to woo them, or you can move on to the next option, because there's plenty of options. I mean, as the saying goes, there's plenty of fish in the sea. So with that being said, I feel like, if we're talking about, the dating scene, what worked for me was being consistent, not letting the first no stop me. I mean, I'm sure in sales, that's one of the
Do you have a
very
girlfriend
first
now?
things you learn. Yeah. We've been dating for 3 years. It's been great. And then just being a good communicator. That's so important. Being able to, in the heat of and I know I'm steering away from the dating and actually into the relationship. But man, communication is so important,
They go
especially whenever it
together
comes to
to a large extent.
fighting. Like, if you ever get in a fight, you have to keep a level head. You got to be stoic. I love the idea of stoicism. I think it's such a fascinating um, thought process or an ideology, because it's so intelligent in the way that you have to take a step back before you let your emotions react, and you have to kind of release yourself from the situation, think logically, decide what are your options, make a decisive decision, stick with it, and then go. And then once you run into another decision, you pull back, you let your emotions fall away from it, and then you make your next concise decision. And that allows you to make the best decisions overall. And that's something that I've worked really, really hard to.
While being a giver, because I think that's what you were. I think you're a giver, right? Like naturally, your personality.
I
Just
would
go
have
on.
to say, yeah.
Wanted to break it down for the other guys, because sometimes people go out and they just try to take from people, like take.
Yep.
You get me on the outside, but like when you're a giver, you get me, like you are. Life gets better overall. Like that program
Zig
that I bought
Ziglar
yesterday.
once said,
Yeah, 100%.
if you give, what is it? If you get
You,
enough, if you give enough others what they want, you will
you
in
can get
turns
what
get
you
what you
want.
want. Yep,
Fastest way to
exactly.
get what you want is to help other
Other
people get
people get
what
what
they
they want.
want.
Yep,
So this
exactly.
podcast, you
Yeah,
get me, it's pretty much having experts like Brock, you get me, guys that really have their shit together in life versus, you get me, anything that's outside, and a role model where it's like,
definitely.
damn, I didn't know Brock had like a marriage of 3 years. I'm like, oh my God, congratulations, Mr. Wooden.
I wouldn't say it's quite a marriage, but I know what you mean. It essentially is. I mean, we live together. What's the difference? So yeah, man. It's been interesting. Over the past couple of years, seeing where I was at 16. I was a player. I loved
I got it.
flirting with girls, hitting them up, having some fun, and then falling off and, just being that typical douchebag in high school. I was a wrestler. I played hockey. I was a rugby player. I had all of these sports that I played. I was really in shape.
Alpha
And
male.
it wasn't like, I have to be honest, it wasn't difficult to get girls to get their attention. Sometimes I got a little bit too much attention, and that really inflated my ego. But that's something that, like,
cool. I get it.
yeah, it's one of those things where, as I've gotten older, even though it's only been 2 years, I've realized how dangerous having an ego can be, because there's so many traps along the way of having a large ego.
Can I go into detail with that? Just because this is going to change your life.
Definitely.
You're right, by the way. You are right. Because an ego, if you don't control it, it can be something that can hurt us on the outside. An ego, though, is something that you want to cultivate in a healthy way. Napoleon Hill talks about, with W. Clement Stone in his book Succeed and Grow Rich Through Persuasion. I've read all of Napoleon Hill's stuff. I've put in over 10,000 hours studying sales and all this stuff.
Yep.
Pretty much. Link the published article that I had recently now here, the things that I'm working on. But hey, man, I'm like a local celebrity in Miami. That shit's fucking cool. Like, what the
There
fuck?
you go.
Hey, man, it's cool as shit.
There you go,
Wow,
man.
fucking, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome. But pretty much, you get me. A healthy ego is something where it's like you don't take anything too personal, you don't take anything too serious. But a healthy ego is something that is a part of who you are. Like Brock, for example, has an ego. He has a lot of positive reference points in the past. He has a lot of things that have helped him become more strong and confident. You get me? He's had wins that have stacked and built his character, which is, you get me, how the world will see him based off, you get me, who he is in his own life. You get me? The experiences, you get me, the stories, the journeys that have made up Brock into who he is.
Mm-hmm.
So an ego, you get me, could be really bad if it's not under control and if it's not tamed. You get me? Which is what I think you were going into. You get me? I'm not sure if you want to take it anywhere else. We're just gonna go back and forth. You get me? You're sharing ideas together like that. I hope that's okay.
Yeah,
Me being
definitely.
the host.
No, that's fine, man. Yeah, I mean, I think that one of the biggest things, and how I've come to, I guess, be at the place that I am is,
you're confident.
I like to, I used to hate reading throughout my entire high school journey. I think the only time I read a book was when we were forced to read it in class, and I wouldn't read it. Like, we would do like the popcorn reading, and I would only read where I needed to. And that was the only time I would ever finish a book.
You were super popular in high school than yourself then, right?
No, so because I moved,
I was super popular in high school.
Because I moved around so much, I never really had a chance to settle down at one. I mean, I guess I can't say that I wasn't popular. Like, people knew about me, but I didn't have a lot of deep rooted connections with people, because I had gone from one, like, I literally went to my freshman year. I went to a high school for 3 months, and then I transferred. And then I finished out the year there, and then I transferred again. And then I finished out the year there, and then I transferred again. And so it was like I didn't really have a chance to build any of those like quality relationships, or have like any big moments that like shifted me into the role of popularity. But I'm also glad because of that. It gave me a lot of good perspective. I feel like having a large ego and having all of that attention on you at a very young age is very, it's potentially dangerous. A lot of people who have really great experiences in high school and they're the top shit, a lot of times that's kind of where they peak. They go to college and there's that other alpha male who's better than them, who can do more, the D1 quarterback, or whatever the situation may be. And then that starts to play with you. And so you start to make moves that align with what you're telling yourself then. And because you had such an inflated time here, you had that expectation all the way through that you just get everything that you wanted because you're popular. Everybody likes you. And you don't really have to work to make people like you, or you don't necessarily have to give. I know that a lot of popular people, I know popular people who are on both sides of the spectrum. There's people who are really, really nice, and they're like popular because everybody loved them as a person. They were just super fun to be around. And then I knew that there was those people who were popular because, they were the badasses, the people that were like complete douchebags to the people on the lower side of the totem pole. And that's kind of how they built up their, superiority, was just by, just stepping on
People
other people,
beta
I
males
guess I
too,
would
by
say.
the way, in the reality of the world. Because like because I used to be into like, you're from California, but you get me, when it comes to banging, you get me, in Miami, I would just claim myself because I was bullied until like 5th grade. You get me? Well, 5th grade was when I was bullied, if we're going to be specific. And then I always wanted to be cool. Anyways,
I
sixth
hear
grade
you.
and up, you get me. I believe in God a lot, and I believe when you pray to
Yeah.
God, like, because I would literally go to sleep crying, and I'd be like, "Hey, listen, you get me? Like, I want to be popular." Throughout the years, psychologically, you get me. When you study success, if you get me. Let's say you want to be a millionaire and you have just as much passion, what happens is that you begin to manifest these things in reality versus you get me maybe being one of the opposite of what was there. So I kind of got into like stuff that wasn't good because it gave me a sense of like security. It gave me a sense of respect. I didn't want anybody to bully me. I didn't want anybody to you get me, make me feel less, and I wanted to feel more important. And I'm like, oh, I can get what I want like this. But I'm not sure if you want to take the conversation anywhere here and there. You get me?
Yeah.
Just kind of like we're just kind of going together here and
No,
there.
definitely. Just kind of build on that. Um, I think that a lot of times most people look at their rough periods, like when they were doing shit that they know they shouldn't have, drugs, whatever like that. There are some times where you just have to go through those periods in time just to get to the other side, because like once you've had those experiences, like the great thing about going down to low places is that you have somewhere to push off of. Like hitting rock bottom, it gives you somewhere to build from, knowing that you can't necessarily get any lower than that. And that can be a position of strength instead of a position of weakness. And you can be like, you know what, fuck this. I am going all out. I don't care anymore. I'm sick and tired of the way that things have been, and I'm going to turn it into the way that I want it to be.
Blessing in
And
disguise.
yeah, it really is. Some of the hardest years of my life taught me some of the best lessons. I was in a really toxic relationship when I was young, and it helped me see and start to want to understand like relationships, social dynamics, so that way I don't have to go through those same things again. And when I do, or if I do, I know how to handle it, and I know how to, at least if it happens to me, I know the same process of growing from it. I mean, for me, what's in my life right
And
now,
always
I know
evolving.
everything is temporary. I'm always trying to find, I wouldn't necessarily say the next problem, but the next challenge. And with that comes a lot of growth, and it's scary. I saw this Instagram post a while back, and it's like each level that you go through requires a new part of you to grow. Like, on this side of the fence there may be barbed wire, but then on the next wall there's rattlesnakes, and you have to adapt to whatever that position is and move forward with that. So it's one of those things where there's a lot of growth that comes from your challenges. So when you're in the harder times, just keep going, be grateful, because a lot of times, after talking to a lot of successful people, and I'm sure that you can kind of go from this as well, you
I'm
hear
with you
people
100%.
say like the best times of my life was when I was building, not like once I got there. It was
But
when I was building. It was the journey, not the destination. It's the journey. And so
I want the destination too.
yeah, hey, I'm right there with you, man. I'm
I
trying to
get
do
you.
everything I can to clip time off of the
That's why we're
off of
around
the
millionaires a
journey.
lot of the time, and
Um,
guys that are you get me worth hundreds of millions. You get me guys that are around people that are worth Forbes 50 under 50. That's one of
yeah,
Ed Milet's Brad Lee's friend. It's like
yeah,
what the dude like dude. We get to talk to like Brad. You get me. He's around all these people. Like these are the kind of proximity that we're around.
yep,
The more hands we shake, the more money we make. You get me. That's like with the
yeah.
podcast. You get me. With what Brad told us. You get me. Maybe Brock will start his own podcast. Who knows? We'll let that sink in.
I've been
The
thinking
Mitt
about it.
is the one that
I've been
inspired me
thinking
to
about
start
it.
this one. Brad the Mitt. Let's
Yeah,
give a shout out to Brad the Mitt.
yeah.
He
Brad
inspired
DeMint,
me to start this one.
he's an awesome man. Yeah, did he get you started?
He inspired me to start this one. I'm like, this guy's
Yeah,
kicking ass. You get me?
that's
I
what's
saw his
up.
website, dude. He's one of my role models.
Yeah. No,
I
Brad
tell him
DeMitt
all the
is a
time.
badass. He's a badass. I've had a few conversations with him, and he has a great energy to him. He's just a really nice guy, and he's trying to help
Fucking
people.
rock star.
Yeah, yeah, seriously. Um, but yeah, I mean, so what are you doing right now? You're working on real estate, right?
Right now, I'm in the process of getting a six-figure job. I'm not going back to culinary school live until I get that job. But I've
Yeah,
pretty much just been failing over. I've been failing forward elegantly. I know I had the magazine published. You get me in the process of me doing all this, but I guess that's just what entrepreneurship is. But yeah, that's pretty much what I'm doing. From there, I buy leads because I had even sold my car to buy leads, but like I fucked it up. I've done this like 3 4 times investing money, so it's kind of like as long as I buy those leads, I can train, I can sell, I can close, I can develop relationships. I have all the skills. It's not the point. It's just the part of the learning curve of this real estate industry and kind of have gotten past to it. And the next step is like now I just need to raise money so I can buy leads, and then the guys around me soon will be making $250,000 a year, because the commissions for this are exactly like Wall Street in the movie, which is one of my inspirations. You get me? You guys can check out the publication that was published about me locally in Miami. It's pretty cool. I'm a celebrity now, but it's kind of like in stocks. Some of those trades can be $100,000, $20,000, $30,000 commissions, right? In real estate, some of these deals could be $1 million, $30 million. You get me? So the commissions for that are high. Some of these deals you get me can be you get me a $10,000 commission, $20,000 commission, $40,000 commission. Now we're starting to make as sales experts, professionals, the highest paid profession in the world, or you get me, we'll get paid more than doctors, you get me, as long as we are
yeah,
adding value to the people around us, and now we're able to employ other people, you get me, afterwards, because we're helping, we're adding, you get me, so other people need leaders,
yeah.
because
Salespeople are the backbone of the economy.
heck yeah, man, leaders are sales professionals, experts, yeah, make sales great
Yeah.
again, fuck yeah.
Funny thing is that the weird thing is where we're moving into a time where of course the weak men are coming out, and they're going to be creating hard times, just to be completely blunt.
They need
Right
us.
now, when we get to a society where we start electing people because of what they're going to what free stuff they're going to give us, that's when issues start to arise. The same thing happened in Rome, when
Go
the
into detail,
people
yeah.
started to vote the
Socialism.
politicians in that would give bread and grain and that kind of stuff for free. Like, they just essentially bought votes. And once that stuff starts to happen, it gets really, really bad, because that's where the society of entitlement comes in. And that's when a great country like the United States, a producer a producer becomes a consumer, and they start losing the innovation. And the interesting thing is that it's like when you start making that transition, the sales industry starts to slow down, because when everything is given, there's no point of that part of
The
that field
innovation, the
necessarily. Exactly.
entrepreneurship that America's
Yep.
built on.
Yeah,
America.
it's like Venezuela. Before they went socialism, there were salespeople everywhere. There were people with booming businesses. I mean, it was one of the best economies in the world at that time. And
My
then
parents are
when they made
Hispanic,
that,
by the way, just in case for the record. Like my parents are
um,
immigrants. I was born here, by the way, so
yeah,
I could be president because I was born
hey,
here. I'm
there you
American.
go.
Like, yeah, I can go to another country. Are you American? Sí, mi amor, soy americano.
There you
Go
go.
on, please.
That's what's up. But yeah, and then after after it went socialist, it just there were no more salespeople. And what's going to bring it back around is when they make those changes, the salespeople will come back, and the economy will take back off. I mean, it's without a sale, an entrepreneur can build a product, but if he doesn't sell it, and if nobody sells it for him, it can be the greatest invention, but it will never land in the hands of anybody. So it's really important that sales is such an important role in the economy and in everyday life. Um, and to kind of go off of what you're saying, sales is either the highest paid job or the lowest paid job. Depends on what you do. Most people, when they get into sales, they do the basic training that they need just when they get the job, and then nothing. They don't read books. like, I think it's like 78% of salespeople have never read more than one sales book. That's just nuts. Or the percentage might be higher. That's just off the top of my head. But I mean, that's ridiculous. The fact that you want to be making money like a doctor and a lawyer, but yet you're not willing to put in the same amount of hours that they did training, studying, preparing to get that kind of money. And if you train and prepare like a lawyer and a doctor as a salesperson, you will make 10 times more than a doctor and a lawyer. And that's really where it comes into, it's really what you do with the opportunities that you have, not necessarily as much as the opportunities that you have. So.
And kind of just making the opportunities for you and living your life by design. I mean, that is so inspiring, Brock. I mean, what else do you want to talk about, dude? This is your episode.
Goodness, man. We can kind of
start
diving
we
into.
Really could.
Yeah. So let's talk about real estate. What side of things are you going to be doing? Like, are you doing the wholesaling? Are you doing like fix and flips? Like, or are you just kind of selling packages on real estate? Like, what's the goal with that?
So it's exactly what you said. It's just wholesaling.
Yeah.
I'll tell you about it because maybe you'll get into this possibly. Real estate is the safest vehicle. It's loved by sales professionals, and the commissions are really high, and it's a very niche market.
Yep.
So I'll share with you this just to benefit for you, but other people are going to get benefit off it as well. Wholesaling, pretty much the commissions we talked about, we already spoke of them. What you do from there afterwards is that once you start making that kind of cash, your guys are making cash, is that you can begin to buy houses either for buy and hold or fix and flip. That's the next step from wholesaling to then that. And then you get me to having passive income or just fixing and flipping it to then eventually becoming the bank, hard money lender to other people, buying properties. So that's a very easy way to make hundreds of millions of dollars and billions of dollars effectively. It's versus you get me starting at 40, 50, 60, maybe sales trainers that we've gone through versus us and how they always tell us, I wish we would have started when we were in our 20s. Imagine our future,
100%.
how it's going to be now, especially because we already learned from their experiences. So now we're on the shoulders of giants.
I mean, it's so true. Right now, I feel like where I'm at is I'm in the, so on a parabolic scale, how there's a long line of it just going like, it's kind of flat and then there's a curve and then it goes up and it's just exponential and it explodes. I see myself in kind of this area right here. I mean, it's just, I'm very, very early on into the success area. And, with real estate, I love real estate because of the idea of money working for you, money working hard for you, instead of you working hard for your money. You got to work smarter, not harder. And with that, I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but have you ever heard of compassionate financing?
What is that, Brock?
So compassionate financing, I learned it from Chris Crone. You might have heard of him, you might not. He's a real estate guy from out of Utah. And he's done some pretty crazy things. He's done over $2 billion worth of real estate transactions. And one of the things that
Brad Lea raised billions of dollars. We had him on the podcast. Go on, please.
Yeah.
Guys, check out that video.
Definitely check out that video. And great. I got his book. Let me see if I can find it really quickly.
Okay, for sure. That was a background the whole time. I thought you were by San Francisco.
No, yep, that's a background. No, I wish that was my view.
I love this guy.
Except for I wouldn't be able to be in California. I can't stand that. It's The Straight Path to Real Estate Wealth. Let's see if we can get it to focus here.
California wants you back, bro.
There we go.
I'm playing with you. Shooting this shit.
The Straight Path to Real Estate Wealth. One of the things that he talks about is compassionate financing. And essentially, it's similar to lease options. I'm sure you're familiar with lease options. Essentially, for anybody who isn't familiar with lease options, what a lease option is when you give somebody a higher rent because most of the time they're willing to pay more, but you're also giving them an option to purchase. And with that, they do a deposit of some sort. But a lot of times with lease optioning, what the investor tends to do is make it as hard as possible for the person to buy the real estate You know, of course, with that being said, but what it's with compassionate financing, what you're doing is you're getting a 500 or generally it's about $5,000 down payment instead of like with rentals where you're just getting like a $500 deposit or a first month's rent or whatever that situation may be. You're getting a $5,000 deposit that's non-refundable. And then they're responsible for maintenance. They're responsible for the house. They can do updates to it. They can do whatever they want because it's technically their house. But you're slowly giving them the option to buy it. Now, what you do is you typically give them about a $10,000 equity bonus kind of situation because they have been paying as renters, rent to own. And it's kind of the best of all worlds. I mean, you're getting the cash flow of rentals, but you're also getting the the benefit of lease option where you're not responsible for the maintenance. Because a lot of times when you add all of those things up, that really starts to drain away your profits, especially if you don't have a certain amount of equity. So it's a really great book. I would recommend to anybody who is interested in real estate. It's a fantastic book, and there's a lot of really great knowledge in it. And it's actually free, I believe, if you go to Chris Crone's Instagram and then go to his bio. But yeah, he's a really smart guy.
Do
But
you know his Instagram by any chance, or do you want to like
yeah, let
maybe
me
pull it
pull
on
it
your
up for him.
iPhone
Yeah.
just for the benefit of the viewers, dude? Because I mean, this class in itself has been worth millions of dollars to a lot of people because of the ideas. One idea could be worth a lot. You get me? Simply, you get me by what Brock shared, where it's like, dude, go after your dreams. You get me? Design what you want. Be intentional.
Chris Crone. It's KRISKROHN.
And all the similarities that we've had together, you get me, the various people that we've studied all
Yeah.
together in life, whether it's Jordan Belfort, Grant Cardone, Brad
Yep.
Lee, XYZ, 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 et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. I mean, the list goes on.
It's the same thing that you were talking about, where it's like this.
And
There's
then
this
you just
book by
take off.
It's the
Yeah.
Compound Effect by Darren
Yep, the
Hardy.
compound of, yep. I loved that book. Just
Favorite of mine.
1% better every single day.
Favorite.
And man, you'll be in such a different place in a year. And then in 2 years. And then in 5 years.
That's the difference.
It's crazy.
Sometimes sooner, stay open, you get me? Because sometimes,
Yeah.
Life is a very, very wonderful thing. Like our destinies, we never know how fast we're going to achieve them because it could easily be we're just grinding, you get me? And then boom, all of a sudden, like some of my friends that are featured on Forbes now or Men's Health Magazine, great friends of mine as well, you get me? It's kind of like really great friends of mine. It's like, for example, it's the process of all of that, and they started off, in Miami, their parents, immigrants, some of them specifically, yeah. And then, Miami's a very Hispanic city, by the way. Like there's a lot of Cubanitas, a lot of Cubans, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of people from Colombia, people from Venezuela, people from my family's from Nicaragua, people from it's a very rich city though. We'll see down the street, like where we see Miami Vice and all that. It's not hyped up at all. It's nice. You'll be walking down by where I live, and then sometimes we'll have like a Rolls Royce pass by, and it's not like I live in the Coral Gables, although I live in one of the better areas of Miami though altogether. But we'll have like Ferraris, you get me, just down the street sometimes, just casually parked at a local house. You get me all around just by passing throughout the area, because it's a very wealth city overall. Like every city has its bad areas just in the world, but I mean, dude, I don't know, dude. Like it's kick ass. It is. It's kick ass. It's anything is possible. It doesn't matter where you start from. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Just for
definitely.
everybody else that's gonna be watching, because I know we're just inspiring other people, right now and kind of giving them ideas and direction that hopefully they
Give me one
use.
second here.
All right, let me pause it for a quick sec, just so Brock can come back. Right, guys, we just found out. By the way, breaking news: Brock has his own apartment. We had some like celebrities like pass by and change his water. I'm just kidding. It was the water maintenance guy, but he was changing it for him. Freaking, they deliver water to him. You get me? Yeah. All right. What were you saying? You get me, Brock?
So what I don't remember what we were talking about before the interruption, but when I moved from California to Colorado,
millions.
We went like my mindset went from 0 to 10, and that was the perfect place that I needed to be. I was more focused on the long term. I was less, worried about, ooh, am I going to be popular? Or, ooh, are people going to like me? Like, I'm just going to go put my head down, do my shit, and get out, so that way I can move on to the rest of my life. Because I feel like high school is kind of like that awkward phase when you don't know what you want to do, but you're also stuck and you can't figure out what you want to do. And it definitely depends on what your kind of interests are. But for me, I was not interested by school. I wasn't interested by academia, and so it was
I had
just
a
a complete waste of
scholarship.
my time. You,
I had a
you did?
scholarship. I had prepaid college. I got a sales degree from Harvard. That's pretty much what it is. Just want to make sure it's a degree. It's
Yeah,
just a sales degree from
yeah,
Harvard.
yeah,
Because I called all the universities locally. My cousin, he graduated from FSU. He's Hispanic as well. But I mean, we just, I guess a lot of us are smart. But
yeah,
pretty much, surround yourself. Just choose your circle. That's all. I mean, anyways. But he didn't learn much there. He learned more off Andy Frisella, off Grant Cardone. You get me?
yep,
Just off
100%.
self-education, off Gary Vee, just self-education. Then what he did, you get me, getting his, I think, master's or bachelor's from like Florida State Universities, which is like one of the top colleges like in the world. Like when it really is like that guy. He's freaking brilliant. Like I think it was a scholarship. I don't know. Like he's brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Hey, he's brilliant. He's doing pretty good right now. But he's knocking doors. He ended up going into sales.
Yep,
I've been studying sales since I've been 16. I've been an entrepreneur since about 15,
yeah,
16.
yeah. It's one thing that I've always found funny,
Not
is
overnight.
going to college for like a degree in marketing and that kind of stuff. I mean, it might make sense for some people. I mean, if you're going to go, you're better off just networking and meeting a bunch of people than you are actually necessarily learning the material that they're teaching. I've talked to plenty of people who have gone through college and they see, you know, all of these people and they meet them, but they never actually build the relationship with them. They come out with their college degree and then they can't really go anywhere. I mean, they get like a basic job and then they just kind of start working and then the rat race begins. And it's better for you to go in with the mindset of, I'm not necessarily worried about meeting a ton of people here. I'm not worried about like necessarily learning a ton here regarding my degree, but more of meeting the people in the area who I believe are going to be successful. That way, as I continue to progress, I have a network that I can use to get to that next level. I mean, just like, it's not necessarily what you know, it's sometimes just who you know, that can help you get to that next level. Um, it's I've never understood the college way. I think you're better off spending the four
Learning
years and
from
the hundred
millionaires
thousand
versus
dollars.
trying to learn from
I'm gonna
people that have
put
never built $1 million businesses.
Yeah, I'm gonna put my $100,000 of what people would have student loans into getting around people who are at 15 levels above where I am, or I'm gonna spend that money investing in assets. I mean, right now I'm working on setting up a crypto mining system to where I'm getting passive income every single day from not having to do anything other than having a Wi-Fi unit. Also, with that being said, I'm working on stocks, dividend stocks, growth stocks, starting young, growing, so that way that stuff can grow for me. That stuff is just going to keep growing for me, so that way I can focus on this. And that way, when hard times do come, I'm prepared, because I know that hard times are a coming. They're always coming. And it's not necessarily that hard times are coming is the bad thing, but what the bad thing is when people aren't prepared for it mentally and financially and physically. It's one of those things where you just gotta hope for the best but expect the worst. Now
That's when
that's
you're
not.
gonna need skills, I think, and like financial. Like, do you want to talk about preparation with that book that you read? Probably the other guys. You get me? Like when the hard times are coming, like what are good ways to like prepare, like mindsets, attitudes? Because hard times are coming. You get me? Weak men create weak times. Strong. What was it? I think strong. Are you
So the
familiar with it?
cycle is it's
Yeah.
it's it's weak men create hard times, and then those hard times are really hard, and that forces men to become strong again. And then those strong men work really, really hard in order to create good times, and then those good times create weak men, and then the cycle repeats. It's about an 80-year cycle. and we're due for the 80-year cycle, the last 20 or the last 20 years of the hard times. And it's a coming. I mean, if you can't see it, then you must have some blindfolders on. But it's, the best way to prepare, I would say, is figure out how you can be dependable. The people around you, the women in your life, other men in your life, everybody needs someone that's dependable. And with that being said, part of what that is telling people the truth, even when it's hard, but then also being willing to deal with things yourself, and also knowing when to rely on other people. There's strength in all of those. And the best way to prepare, I would say, is just focus on your mentality, because people, they can break you physically, they can break you financially. But the one thing that, like, the Titanic didn't sink because of the water, that it didn't float. The reason why it sank is because the water got inside of the ship. And you can't let all of the negativity and all of the bad stuff get in and corrupt you and make you want comfort. You got to be uncomfortable. I mean, if you're comfortable, you're dying. If you're not progressing, you're not just plateauing. That plateaus don't exist. You're either going up or you're going down. And so you have to make a decision. Am I going to be going up, or am I going to be going down? Am I going to be comfortable, or am I going to be uncomfortable? Am I going to have a mediocre life, or am I going to have a great life? Am I going to have my cake and eat it too? Or am I just going to take my little sliver and be fine with it? Settling is one of the most deadly things that exists. I mean, if you settle, essentially everything from here on doesn't really matter. You don't really have any reason per se for continuing, other than for other people. But that's going to burn out sometime or another. I mean, if your glass, so you have to fill up your glass first, because once your glass starts filling up, it'll start to overflow. And where does it go when it overflows? Into the people around you.
I think most people will give up in life when it comes to, I guess, like adversity, because like I'm not sure how many times you failed over and over and over, but I think most people that become successful, they, for example, you get me, have like a lot of like adversity that they go through. And most
It's
of the
not how
time you
many
get me
successes they had, it's how many failures they had and kept pushing through.
100%. And to give you another quote too, with Winston Churchill, it's like the loss of, it's the success is going from failure to failure without the loss of enthusiasm,
Mm-hmm.
because people are going to judge you based off how you show up. Do you show up, you get me, with your shoulders down and you get me, on the outside, you get me as a failure? Or do you show up confident? Do you give it your all? Do you have passion? You know, and are you a winner? Can you
Yeah.
make the money 100%?
Yeah. Have you ever read 12 Rules for Life by Jordan Peterson?
I've heard really good things about that book.
Read it. You need to. It's a
Okay,
game-changing book.
I
For me,
will.
one of the things that was really interesting about it is that, people are a lot of times scared of picking up their responsibility. The whole entire reason for life is picking up your burden of the world. You signed a contract when you were born, whether you liked it or not. It's your responsibility to pick up your little sliver of the bearing of the weight of the world and carry it on your shoulders. Now, most people don't do that. But if you do that and you do work and you continue to push, you have to walk with your shoulders back and your head up high, because you are taking on the responsibility for your burden and your share. Where most people, they don't. They want comfort. They want other people to take care of them. And that's not how the world works. The world doesn't give to people who take. The world gives to people who give. And so with that being said, you have to be willing, and not just willing, but you have to be determined to pick up your share, and you have to do what you can to make it the best opportunity and make the best with what you have. I mean, that book goes a lot into, with the psychology of losing, with crabs or crustaceans. a lot of times whenever an alpha male gets injured in a fight and then gets defeated, it actually starts to lose its confidence, and then it won't actually go back out and tend to attack. It actually starts to lose the qualities that made it an alpha male. And it actually has to lose its, like the brain starts to degrade and a new brain forms, and it's the brain of a, and I hate using the alpha and beta, but that's just the way it is, a beta mentality in its brain. And then it doesn't go out and, it's not as sexually prone to going out and conquering and getting new territory. It hides. And that's what a lot of people do. They stay in their four little walls and they don't go anywhere else. They go to work, they go home. They go to work, they go home. And that's their routine. They don't go out and they don't make an effort to change the world. Right now, what I'm working on is Cash Flow Club. You might have heard of it, you might not have. Essentially, Robert Kiyosaki, he created a board game, Cash Flow 101, and I'm creating a board game around that because for me, what's important is teaching other people financial freedom. It's so sad hearing people who have financial issues because they didn't see the opportunities that were around them. They just kind of went with what they had and they didn't try to find the next best, latest and greatest. And they also didn't necessarily study the people that came before them. They just kind of went by trial and error. And that's not the best way to go. If you don't learn from other people, it's like, imagine this. Imagine you're trying to create a car and you're Henry Ford. You're trying to figure out the best way to create a car for the masses. Do you start from absolute scratch, forget everything that everybody has taught you, start and redesign the wheel?
No.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
you don't
I'm
go and
gonna go model
redesign the wheel.
people because they already had stuff that I can build on.
Exactly. You take their information,
make it better.
First of all, you use your logic, figure out if that is a great form or a great, if that's a great way of doing things, and then you make modifications of it. And that's why we have cars today. He didn't go and recreate a wheel. He didn't go and recreate all of the parts of a car. He took, molded it together, and then he created something great from it. And so you have to do the same thing. You have to take bits and pieces from people who are in better positions than you, combine it, and then you can put your own, creative genius into it. And when you are learning from people who are better than you, it inspires you to be better. It inspires you to be greater and to chase after the things, because it's like there's so many reasons why you can't. There's so many reasons why you can't.
Brock, you inspire me, by the way.
I appreciate that, brother.
Of course. I think Brock's going to be one of my role models now, too. I fucking like him, dude. You guys should give him a follow. We're going to put his stuff on the description as well. Go on. I'm serious, dude.
Yeah, I appreciate it. But, it's one of those things where, you really have to, I guess it's
you want to be around winners, dude. Like, think about it. Like, you want to be around people where it's like, and I always share this with everybody. It's like, imagine you get me the people that you're around. You want people that are going to make you feel important, people that value you, people that cherish you, that treasure you, right? And just people that are real with you.
And you also have to understand the psychology of humans. Humans always put themselves first. And when you go in with those expectations, usually, it's a yes and no. It's almost impossible for there to be a deed
by Robert
that
Dawkins. Yeah, so that book is all about what you said, by the way.
Yeah, it's almost impossible to have I
like giving
non-selfish deed. If you give to charity, why do you give to charity? Because it makes you feel good. It makes you feel good about who you are and what your values are. You don't do something for nothing. You do something
or you just want to like put them on for whatever reason. Look, I'll share this with you too. Like, go back and forth, because this is fucking livid, the conversation we're having. All right. To us, this is casual. This is normal. For the rest of the world, the way that we're breaking it down, the way you're breaking it down, you get me? We're going back and forth here, dude. This is like, does that make like?
Yeah.
Like it's
most people can't see this.
This is a little masterclass you get me put together here. You get me the two of us, like on our collaboration. That we have, you get me, with two entrepreneurs, you get me, two geniuses, two people that change the world. There's this quote by W. Clement Stone where it says, "Do not belittle the practical dreamer, for he or she is the forerunner of civilization." So it's like whenever I see anybody, and you get me, in John's story, I think might be like this as well. But when we see people that think big, that are super positive, that are enthusiastic, we're drawn to things like that, man. And
Sure.
those people will usually make you better because that's what they want to be able to do for others. So when we live like that, you get me, and we're constantly putting people on, or like Bob Berg, where it's like the go-giver, and we're creating giving opportunities which most people are trying to take, and it's like, oh, okay, let me, you get me, try to give. The fastest way to get what we want is to help them get what they want.
Definitely.
um
Definitely.
and
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Now you kind of said something that made me want to jump back in our
yeah, yeah,
conversation,
yeah.
the dating thing
This is
for
your
a
episode.
quick second. So back to the dating, one of the things that I've found is that when you put your purpose in life first, most of the time people think that I need to put the woman in my life absolutely above everything. And a lot of times,
Don't do that, you'll lose the girl. Okay, go on.
exactly, when you
Just
start
focus
to
on your
lose your
purpose.
ambition, you start to
I hate this, by
lose
the way.
the sexual polarization. There's the fight, there's the give and the take, and that polarization, the yin and yang of it, is what allows the
Keep
relationship to
going.
be so fluent, and so like there's like whenever your girlfriend is testing you and is like, oh, you'll never achieve that, don't take that necessarily personally, because she's testing you. She's trying to see if you're going to give up based on her doubting. And it's not necessarily that she doubts you per se, but she is testing you. She is testing your strength. Girls want to feel the strength of their guy. It's funny because right now what's going on is the guys, they were up here, they were the breadwinners. Now in today's day and age, most women, they don't really, they want to make their own money. They want to have their own careers. And so what that does is it takes the natural role of what the guy does as being like a breadwinner, and it brings them down. Now what happens is, guys, would you agree with me that guys generally try and date down instead of dating up
Yes. I
economically?
think most guys just have like lower standards. I think most guys need to study
I
some
don't
of
think
this
it's
stuff.
lower
Most
standards,
guys
but guys
I don't know.
naturally want to have
There's
somebody
so
that they
much
can
stuff
take
there.
care of.
I personally like having women that I can take care of, to be honest with you. I
Bingo.
like that. I'm personally like, I want my girl to be my cheerleader. I just need a cheerleader, you get me, that is
Yeah,
ambitious, that's gonna pour positive things into my ear, and is
100%.
gonna help me, you get me, with myself, where I'm trying to get to, pretty much get there.
Yeah. So like I was saying, guys, like it's starting to
100%.
clear right here. And so
Yeah.
what girls want is they want somebody that's better than them. Somebody or that makes more money than them, so that way they can have a strong person to rely on. And what's happening is the guys, they're starting to make less money because they don't.
Normal girls, I think like healthy girls. Because I think some girls try to be masculine and macho,
That's
and it's
exactly
like,
what I'm getting at. Is that in
you don't
today's
want
day and
that.
age, that's what's being taught.
Because
That's
of the
what's being taught.
media
It's like
and
it's
the
no
traditional
role.
programming and what's taught to us in
Yeah.
schools, and this is the way to create wealth. And then for dating, that's what taught to us throughout the movies, and this is
Yep.
the way to do it. Versus
Yep.
Brock, and he kind of deconstructed the matrix, you get me. I have as well, but how we deconstructed the matrix, and Brock, you get me, kind of teaching all of us, you get me, from his experience.
Yeah, and so there was a survey done that is most of the girls who are in higher economical standpoints feel like their dating pool, as girls get higher in the economics, they feel like their dating pool goes down. When for guys, as their economics go up, they feel like their dating pool goes up. And so what's happening is it's kind of going like this. And what we're seeing is that there's not necessarily a need for each other anymore. And that causes a lot of friction in relationships. I mean, in the book, or in one of Stephen Arnio's books, he talks about his parents, how his mom became the breadwinner because the dad could not continue to provide for the family. And he literally lost his marriage because he wasn't able to be the man of the relationship. That's when the man falls out of the masculine role, the female feels the need to step into that role. And when that happens, you lose sexual polarization, and then the relationship starts to fall. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that sex is everything, but there's a lot to do with
Pretty
beyond
important.
sex. But the sexual polarization has to do with everything. And so just kind of stepping back, you need to put your goals and ambitions first. And when you do that,
And you're right 100%, by the way, with the polarization. Like, just going back and forth for like everybody else, just solidifying that.
People think that as you get older and as your relationship develops, it gets better. It doesn't. You got to learn to tango with it. You got to learn to dance with it. You know, you got to learn to laugh when, you know, you get home and your girlfriend yells at you because you didn't go and get the milk on your way home from work. You know, you got to laugh about it and be like, I'll go get milk, and, you know, make like, you know, turn it, like, be romantic about
Dude, Brock's
it.
a fucking alpha, man. I fucking love him.
And so it's one of those things.
Hope you don't think I'm a beta. Just kidding.
Not at all, my man.
That's wrong.
But it's one of those things where you have to set yourself up in that position and really learn relationships. Most people, it's one of those things where most people don't put any effort into their relationships by learning how to be better in a relationship. They don't learn how to be better at work. They don't learn how to be better in their personal life. And that's why you see all of these people who are mediocre. It's not because, I mean, the average American reads one book per year. And I think it was
hopefully
78% of that, or even more.
Hopefully they read one a year.
Statistic.
It's fucked up. It's real though. It's real. It's real. Brock, they don't fucking read shit. Most people will never get anywhere. It's like,
and not even necessarily
how
that.
How intense are you, bro? Like it's this is serious. You're right, by the way. Like this, like and
any books that help them. They read romance books or fiction books and all of this bullshit that doesn't help them. And good for you for reading. I mean, reading has its own benefits alone, but when you read stuff that puts you further, the average CEO reads 63 books a year.
Oh, it's 63. That was 52. 63. Okay.
I thought I might have heard a different statistic.
Hey man, you get me? Fucking read.
Let's just put it as a
read
range.
A lot.
52 to 63.
Invest thousands of dollars in your education
that's
every year.
52 times. Now let's put that into years. Let's say that's how it is for 10 years. What's 10 times 52? That's going to be 520 books compared to your 10 books.
Hopefully.
Now do you understand the economical difference? When people complain to me about why the rich are making so much money and they're not, the system is against me. No, the system's not against you. You're against yourself.
100% for everything, by the way.
That's really how it is. So I mean, it's something that people need to work on. I mean, it takes small steps. For me, what I did was Audible. Car Academy. I consider it Car Academy. I think I've mentioned this on Closer School Live, but where I don't put on my music when I get in the car. I don't put on music. I don't put on the radio. I don't put on a random book. I put on a book that takes me to the next level. The average person, I believe it spends 22,000 hours of their lifetime, and I could be wrong about that number, but I'm pretty sure it's 22,000 hours of their lifetime commuting, driving from place to place, A to B. Especially if if your drive is longer than 45 minutes to work, especially. And you could literally get to the degree of mastery if you spent half of that time educating yourself on a specific topic. That's mind-boggling. How much time is wasted in a car? You have to kind of dial in and figure out, how can I use my time best? Because whether you like it or not, the sand in your time, I don't remember exactly what those things are called, the hourglass, the sand always keeps falling. You cannot pause that sand. It's always going to keep falling. And so with that being said, what you do with those little grains of sand that are slipping away is going to be the difference between a great life and laying on your deathbed with regrets. Knowing, I could have done this. If only I would have done this. If only fear wouldn't have stopped me. If only fear wouldn't have been in the way. It's
because what if
that reality, but
because you probably will if you just stick to it.
Yeah.
If you learn every single day just for like a little bit, you had it something and it's gonna click automatically, of course, where it's like Earl Nightingale said, you can become one of the best in the world if you study just 1 hour a day, your field or your profession. Within 3 years, 5 years, and 7 years, within 3 years, you're gonna become very professional at what you do. Within 5 years, you're going to become, you get me, one of the best in your industry at what you do. Within 7 years, you're going to become one of the best in the world.
Yep,
You get
100%.
me at what you're training, you get me, or you get me what you do, you get me, because of the self-education, because of the compound effect.
Definitely. Yeah, it's an amazing phenomenon when you start your journey and then 2 years later you look back and you're like, I don't even recognize myself. If I was to talk to myself 2 years ago, we wouldn't even be friends. I would cut him out of my social circle.
You weren't ready for it, probably. You like.
That's another thing is
Some people aren't ready for success. They're not ready for it sometimes.
And it scares them.
You gotta be ready for it. Stay ready, or get ready to stay ready, so you don't have to get ready.
This poster over here, and it shows. So your comfort zone is here, and your perceived limits are here. Your growth zone is here, and then the life that you want is right here. But this mountain right here, it doesn't really exist. It's all up here. It's fascinating to me how many people spend their entire lives inside of their comfort zone and never stepping out of it.
What are some things that you do, you get me, to always stay uncomfortable? Like, what are some mindsets for that?
Trying new things. I mean, that sounds super basic, but I mean, really, when you try new things in any area of your life, it bleeds into everything else. It's refreshing. It's like having a refreshing thing come through you because you're trying something new. You're stepping outside of your comfort zone. For me, one of the things that I've recently started to take up was, as I mentioned earlier, crypto mining. I stumbled upon it and I've just become fascinated with it. I mean, my computer, as we're speaking, is literally making me money. It's
fucking nuts, Brock.
It's making me money as I'm speaking to you right now. And that was such a crazy mindset shift that I've had this computer right here.
How does that work?
And
Brock, I might make this a flagship episode, by the way. Like, I might just be, how does that work, by the way?
Crypto mining?
This episode is tremendous, dude. I mean, it's fucking A, bro.
I don't want to go
especially with two young guys.
It's really complex, and I'm still trying to understand it fully. But essentially, I just have my my little PC thing here. Let me turn off my.
I'll shout you out. You're awesome.
Let me turn off my my virtual background real quick. So as you can see here, this is my little computer thing here. I have this taken off of it, my little screen thing here, and I have my GPU here, and then I have my my CPU. I don't exactly want to mess around in there too much, but this essentially is making money all day, every day. It's running 24/7, and it's just going and going and going. Let me bring it up. So I use NiceHash. It's essentially a software where you download it, and then within 20 minutes, you're mining crypto. Now, right now, I'm not doing super great with the amount that I've made, but I just recently started this, and I've made $7 in 2 days from doing absolutely nothing.
Dude, get the heck out of here. That's just that in itself is like a freaking fancy thing. I'm sure the potential for that is millions or hundreds of thousands or a lot.
And I just went and I invested $500 into another crypto miner that just sits over by my window, and it makes me anywhere from $5 to $50 a day, doing absolutely nothing. It's just pulling $1 of electricity each month, making me money every single day. Anyways, I mean, it's a fascinating concept. And when I started to dive into it, I was just blown away at the potential, and how it's not talked about. I mean, you hear all these side hustles, like go out and start mowing lawns. And it's like, the crazy thing is you have one of the most advanced systems sitting in your pocket at all times. And most people don't use it. Most people use it for Instagram, for comfort things, instead of using it for uncomfortable things that make them better and make them more money. And I don't like making everything about money. For me, honestly, I could care less about money. I want to get to a point to where money doesn't matter to me, to where I don't have to worry.
You value freedom, exactly. options.
That's
freedom.
Exactly what I was getting. Is money
lifestyle.
Is not money in the long run does not matter. It really does not. What matters to me is freedom. And in our society, money is how you get freedom. Money, you can either use your time to get money, or you can buy back your time with money. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to build an empire that gives me my time back, because I don't like working a 9 to 5. A 9 to 5 is
I
not
hate
fun.
working for people, Brock.
It's I don't like I don't like somebody telling me that I have to wear a uniform. I don't like somebody telling me when I
And
need
you're
to
usually
show up.
sharper than the people around you because they don't self-invest, and it's horrible. And it's like, I get it.
And
I do.
and honestly, a lot of times, depending on where you're at, there are some places that are 9 to 5s. They can work really great, and then there's other times where they are literally pulling the life out of you, and they're not bringing you up. The only thing that they're doing is giving you more money. Now, the nice thing about my job currently is that it gives me a lot of time to put my head down and focus on building my education, building things like my
My friend.
crypto, building things like, you know, my investments, my sales ability, those kind of things. It's a really great position from where I'm at right now in the stage of my life. The next level for me is going to be fucking crazy. It's going to be all the time,
Heck
go,
yeah.
go, go. And it's, I mean, I see it coming in the next 6 to 8 months, just being like a boom. And then I'm just taking off at the
Fuck
races.
yeah, dude. Dude, by the way, when I say like heck yeah or fuck yeah, and I'm like trying to like pour even more belief and enthusiasm into you, most people in the world choose your friends. Does that make sense? Audit your circle.
Yeah,
Like
like I said
we
earlier.
want to we want to be around people that are gonna literally make us better. The Bible will share iron sharpens iron. You want to be around people that
So
are
true.
fucking nutty, that are intense, that are extreme, where they're literally shaping the world.
Yeah. I think for me, one of the things that helped me be able to have a little bit of an understanding about this before I actually understood it, I guess I would say, is sports. When I was a wrestler, I was unfortunately I was injured and I wasn't able to wrestle anymore. But when I was wrestling, I was the JV captain, and I also wrestled on varsity as well. But it was so
You were
interesting to me
popular as shit, dude.
how, when I was able to help another person, I got better myself. When you teach other people, the level of mastery is great. But then whenever you're able to transfer that mastery to someone else, it takes your understanding from mastery to above mastery. And that's where, like,
Napoleon Hill talks about that as well, the same way
yeah,
you are.
it's fascinating. And so that's something that I learned through wrestling and through hockey and through sports, is when you have a team and you guys grow together and you care about, you know, helping that person grow, because you know if you help them grow, they'll help you grow. It's a game changer. Whenever you're in an environment that's you're helping them grow, they're helping you grow, you're helping this person grow, that person's helping you grow, and then everybody's pouring into each other, of course for their own selfish reasons, but they're pouring into each other and getting something in return. That's creating a network that is built out of, like, solid rock instead of sand, like most people, where it's just these skin deep relationships where it's not building upon each other and
A real relationships,
grow. Yeah, I mean, I can't tell you how many friends I've had that
like
it's
Brad
just
teaches
it's
us.
skin deep. You know, you like they like when I moved to Colorado, I didn't realize how many people didn't actually care about me. How many people it was just they were around me because it was
They
convenient.
wanted something from you or whatever it was, or they
Exactly.
wanted to they were trying to use you to get to some of your friends that you have now or whatever it is
Exactly. And that's a very,
on the
very
outside.
unfortunate thing, but I mean, it's how people work, you know. And when you start to realize that, you're able to use that to your advantage. You know, when you're able to give people value, they will use you, but then you can also take from that relationship as well. I was talking to somebody the other day who has given their entire life, given, and
I
they've
think
never really
forgiving what we want to do specifically is that we always want to water everybody around us, and I'm just gonna my perspective on this, and I've literally multiplied my relationships and they're blossoming in every area of my life. You get me, in a way where because you get me. When I recommend everybody study Bob Berg. By the way, he's been coaching me online for free for a couple of months. He's an international speaker, pretty much. He's extremely famous. I might even have him on the podcast soon, to be honest with you, on June, if things work out well. But June 1st. But uh, when we give, you get me. It's watering the people around us. It's just we'll have our goals, we'll have our dreams, but it doesn't mean that we can't align them. Where it's like I'm taking and giving the way he teaches it and the way I'm sharing now. It's like it's the same. When we take and when we give, they're both in one. It's like when we breathe. We we inhale, you get me? We're taking from the world. We're taking oxygen.
And they
We
were
when
giving
we
carbon dioxide
exhale, we're giving, but they use it.
to
But, but,
plants.
but we're but we're taking the oxygen. We need it to breathe. But they also need the carbon dioxide to
Mutually.
to to, to live. So to water the relationships where everybody's growing abundantly because it's all in one. It's not so much taking or giving. It's what can we do for that person? How can we make their life better? How can we enhance their future? And by the way, the law of compensation, the way Napoleon Hill would teach it, have some
Yep.
textbooks by him actually that are worth about 10 grand. You can Google these on eBay. These are originals. These don't exist anymore. The law of success. I love Napoleon Hill. I studied all of his stuff, all of it, just about 1943. That's between World War I and World War II.
There you go. That's
And
tough.
pretty much, you get me. It's giving and taking is one. When we give and when we take, it's one. The law of compensation will share that a lot of the time when we're out there and we keep giving in life altogether, what happens then is that now we can be able to eventually get all that back because of the compound effect, because the universe will keep giving it back to you. I love Jesus, I
Yeah.
Christian, but
Yeah.
pretty much you get me. The universe gives it back to you, and it
Yeah.
keeps opening doors and it keeps unlocking. And the more you give, the more you have.
One thing that was a huge mindset shift for me was believing in energies and vibrations.
It's
It,
real, dude. All of
it
it is real. It's
when I
real.
when
God is
I
real.
when I started
Seen
off when I
so many
was
miracles.
I was like, oh, you hippies are fucking weird. What are you talking about? Vibrations, energies? You guys are weird. There's no that I don't believe in fairy tales. And then as I started to, develop myself and like bring my brain to a higher level, I was able to see I was attracting different people into my life than who I was previously. And it's fascinating as well as when you start to take responsibility for everything in your life, literally everything, that everything comes down to a choice, literally everything, and there's always a consequence to your action. There's a good consequence or a bad consequence. Doing this podcast, there's going to be consequences that come from it,
Dude,
good
I
or bad.
honestly think it's gonna be great. I'm gonna use this as a flagship episode. I want you to start posting more stuff on YouTube if you want. Or because
Yeah,
dude, I mean
I
you're a
actually,
fucking genius, Brock. Why
I,
aren't you posting more online? The
yeah,
fuck,
I've been
dude.
working on some
You're
video
you're the
ideas.
you're an authority, Brock. Like oh my gosh, dude.
I've been working on some video
We've only
ideas.
met through closer school before, you get me, and we're always getting coached, you get me. But I mean, geez, dude, like my mind is running with ideas for positivity.
So these are all the I have a couple of pages of ideas for you guys can't really see it, but for what I'm going to be posting here soon. It's just I for a while I was doing posts and I was being a little bit more
Fuck
in
yeah, dude.
whatnot.
You are worthy.
And I didn't feel like the content that I was bringing was my most best
We
and
are
authentic
worthy.
self. So I took a step back. I still have all of my stuff up that I posted. But I think that this next time that I do it, I'm going to create a bunch of content first and then slowly release the content that I've already created, giving me time to where I don't have the pressure so that I can use my creative mass or
You're working your plan.
my creative genius into my videos, because one thing that I feel like has happened is that I was just trying to push stuff out. It wasn't quality. It wasn't as good as I could have made it. I didn't explain things as clearly as I could have, and that diminished the quality of it. And so my focus now is making a transition from being, just putting something out to now making it to where I'm actually giving my best self and putting it out there to help those people. But yeah, I do unfortunately have to head out here soon. I'm going to play
Let's wrap
hockey.
up the episode. How do you want to leave the viewers so you could have the final words, leave some inspiration for these guys? I know that we could find you on Instagram at BrockMW_22.
Yep, yep. Really what I would leave it with is
My
start to
friend.
take baby steps to work on yourself. When you set the goals too high, it's great to have big goals and to be thinking big. Think big, but in small ways, if that makes sense. Take small steps, make it actionable. Start reading books. Do what is comfortable at first, and then start working your way outside of your comfort zone. If you step too far out, you are not going to be able to sustain that level. You have to work at a consistent pace. Consistency is better than sprints. We all know the story of the hare and the tortoise. That's kind of where it comes down to. In order to improve, you have to do it in your time. You have to work and consistently work, put in the work day in and day out. It doesn't have to be necessarily what Jeff Bezos is doing today. You can't put yourself on those expectations. You have to do what's doable for you today and then go from there. With that, I would say read books instead of listening to music in your car. Listen to books, or even set
Episodes like this with Brock.
design where on your way to work, you listen to a book. On your way home from work, if you had a rough day, listen to music to get yourself back up in a good mood. But be putting positive information inside of your brain at all times, and you will reap the rewards. Also, with that being said, create multiple flows of income. If you rely on one flow of income, you have way too much stress and way too much focus on that one source. You're putting all of your eggs in one basket, which can be a good thing because you can grow that a lot quicker, but it's also great to have other areas where you're diversifying a little bit in order to create a level to where you can stand on and push off of. Whenever you give yourself that opportunity, you're going to go so much farther. With that, I'd say be great, do what you can, continue to advance, and always give what you can 1% per day. Always become 1% better than you were today. You're not comparing yourself to. I don't compare myself to Brad Lea because Brad Lea.
He's a role model though of yours. He's somebody you identify with in a certain way.
I compare myself to who I was yesterday, and the only reason why I would be disappointed in myself is if I didn't be better than who I was yesterday. And that's all that matters to me, is getting better each and every day. That way, when I look back in a month, I'm like, wow, I am doing way more than I was a month ago. And then in 2 years, I'm going to be doing 10 times more than what I'm doing today. So that's really what I want to leave it at. Just find ways to improve yourself. Read Atomic Habits, stack your habits, and you will. When you first start off, don't worry about the how, just worry about your why, and things will come.
All right, guys. Brock finished it off, so I'm just going to end the episode here, and we will catch you guys on the next one. Thank you, Brock.
Guys.